Block 1. The architecture of the trap. Have you ever wondered why, when you open your social media feed for just a minute, you suddenly realize an hour has passed, yet you still feel completely unfulfilled? What if I told you that this paradox isn't a result of your weak willpower, but the outcome of a precisely engineered attack on your biochemistry that turns your brain into a digital slot machine? And the scariest part is that while you're scrolling through your feed looking for an answer to "Why am I unhappy?", you are voluntarily handing over the controls of your mood and your future to the algorithms. Are you ready to find out exactly how you've been hacked? The evolutionary contract: why we aren't built for abundance. The human brain is a biological conservative whose basic settings were formed in the Pleistocene. Back then, dopamine was not a pleasure hormone. It was a survival tool, the fuel for seeking resources. In the savannah, where calories were scarce and social approval within the tribe was a matter of life and death, the brain developed a strict algorithm. Act. There is a potential reward here. We feel excitement before we pick the fruit, not after. When we consume calories or receive approval from our peers, dopamine levels drop sharply, replaced by a sense of satiety and peace. This is the evolutionary stop valve mechanism. However, today, this mechanism has been hacked. Social media offers us digital berries, information, memes, likes, 24 hours a day. We live in an era of dopamine abundance for which our brain is not adapted, turning a natural search mechanism into compulsive, obsessive behavior. The engineering of uncertainty, digital casino design. Algorithmic feeds in modern social media are not just content lists. They are high-tech variations of the Skinner box. Psychologist B.F. Skinner proved that the strongest addiction is not triggered by a predictable reward, but by an unpredictable one. If a rat presses a lever and always receives food, it stops pressing once it's full. But if food appears only occasionally and randomly, the rat will press the lever to the point of exhaustion. When you refresh your feed, you are performing a gesture identical to pulling a lever in a casino. You don't know what's coming next. A photo of a close friend, or a boring advertisement. This unpredictability triggers a massive surge of dopamine, far greater than if the content were strictly predictable. Developers intentionally introduced this slack to keep your nervous system in a state of constant, excited anticipation. Every refresh is a little lottery where your brain hopes to hit the jackpot in the form of social recognition or new, interesting information. The myth of completion. Infinite scroll. The human psyche is wired to seek closure. We experience cognitive satisfaction when we close a tab, finish a chapter, or eat a meal. The attention economy has deliberately destroyed this sense of closure by introducing infinite scroll. In traditional interfaces, there were pages. This created natural pauses, giving the brain time to reflect. Is it worth continuing? Infinite scroll eliminates this micro barrier. You consume content and the page loads itself. As a result, you encounter no visual cues signaling, "This is the end, time to stop." The brain gets trapped in an open loop that cannot be closed. You never feel like you've seen enough because the system offers no finish line. This turns content consumption into a continuous process where time loses its value. Block 2. The neurobiology of addiction. Desensitization, the price of cheap dopamine. Your brain strives for homeostasis, internal balance. When you constantly bombard your dopamine system with notifications, likes, and clickbait headlines, the brain begins to defend itself. It does this by reducing the number of dopamine receptors or lowering their sensitivity. Desensitization. This means that to experience the same level of pleasure you felt yesterday, you need more dopamine today. This is classic tolerance, just like with chemical dependency. Things that used to bring joy, like a calm walk or reading a book, now feel bland. You feel apathy in everyday life because the stimulation threshold set by social media has become too high. Ordinary joys of life lose the competition for your attention, and you inevitably return to the screen just to feel normal. Cognitive exhaustion, the war against the prefrontal cortex. Inside your head, there is a constant battle between two systems, the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex, Womint. Fallend the Fallend Melwenu, Planum. Social media algorithms are designed to strike exactly at the limbic system, bypassing logic filters. When you see a notification, an attention hijack occurs. To resist the urge to check your phone, your prefrontal cortex must exert willpower. But willpower is a finite resource. After a day of work or making dozens of decisions, the prefrontal cortex grows weaker. At that moment, the autopilot of the limbic system takes over. You aren't weak-willed. You are simply exhausted from the constant fight against a system designed to exploit your fatigue. The social mirror and status anxiety. Humans are deeply social creatures, and our reward system is closely tied to status. In ancient times, banishment from the tribe meant death, so we are evolutionarily programmed to constantly scan our place in the hierarchy. Social media turned this subtle process into quantitative metrics: likes, views, followers. When you compare yourself to the ideal profiles of others, the brain often interprets this as a threat to your status. This creates the FOMO phenomenon, which activates brain regions associated with stress. To soothe this anxiety, you dive back into the feed, hoping to get a dose of confirmation of your own significance. This is a dangerous feedback loop. Social comparison acts as a source of stress, while social media acts simultaneously as the cause and the remedy for that pain. Block 3. The path to digital freedom. Deconstructing manipulation. Awareness as a shield. The first and most important step toward liberation is demystification. When you perceive a notification not as an important message, but as an algorithmic challenge designed to keep me in the app, the magic dissipates. This process is called cognitive reappraisal. Try an experiment. Every time you reach for your phone, ask yourself, why am I doing this? Do I want to find out something specific, or am I just running away from boredom? It often turns out that 80% of actions are impulsive. Realizing that you are playing a game with rules written against you shifts your brain from consumption mode to observation mode. You are no longer the subject of an experiment. You become an explorer of your own habits. This distancing allows the prefrontal cortex to regain control of the process. Neuroplasticity and dopamine fasting. The good news is that the brain is plastic. You can restore receptor sensitivity if you give them a break from hyperstimulation. A dopamine detox is not an esoteric practice. It is a biological necessity. Start by radically simplifying your environment. Delete the apps that cause the most addiction and turn off all push notifications. Introduce periods of digital silence. For example, the first hour after waking up and the last before sleep without devices. Yes, at first, you will experience withdrawal, anxiety, boredom, the urge to check the phone. This is a normal reaction of a brain demanding its usual dose. If you endure these moments, in a couple of weeks, you will notice that ordinary activities start bringing pleasure again. Reintegration, happiness beyond the feed. Real fulfillment requires engagement in real-world tasks. This could be deep work, sports, creativity, or live interaction. These activities raise dopamine levels smoothly and sustainably without causing sharp crashes. The secret lies in creating an environment where the right actions require less effort than the harmful ones. For example, keep your phone in another room when working. Put a book on your pillow so it's the first thing you see in the morning. Reclaiming control over your attention is an act of reclaiming control over your life. You gradually learn to rebuild the long-term neural pathways that make you a free person, capable of focusing on what truly matters for your future, rather than for the pockets of the algorithm creators. Returning to the question we started with, why is it so hard to tear ourselves away from the screen? The answer lies in the conflict between our ancient brain and the technologies that have outsmarted it. We are not weak-willed victims. We are participants in an experiment where every refresh button press takes away a piece of our capacity for deep concentration and true happiness. But now that you understand the mechanics of this hack, the choice is yours. Stay inside the matrix of dopamine swings or step out of it, reclaiming the right to decide how to spend the most valuable resource in your life, your attention.